Well, I'm finishing up here on my last day at the Texas High School Coaches Association Coaching School, and we're finishing this off with a great one in the 2021 state champion from Stephenville High School, Coach Sterling Doty. Coach Doty, thank you for taking the time and being here.
Yeah, Keith, appreciate you bringing me in.
And congratulations on being honored on the 40 under 40 list as well. That's an impressive list.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but, great players, great staff, great community. You got the ability to be recognized like that.
Coach, you come from a background of some great influences. Coach Art Briles being a big one for you, high school, college, and obviously I'm sure you still stay in touch with him, but other coaches in your past as well, Coach Mike Copeland, a lot of guys who certainly helped bring you along to the point you are today, whether that was directly in working with you as a coach or just in the way you were coached coming up as a player as well.
Yes, sir, definitely. They had the blueprint and had a ton of success on the field. But what I appreciate so much about that time and the way they shaped us as young men, they taught us about life and character and what it takes to be, a male in today's society, and to be a great husband and be a great father and just all those things. So it was a very well-rounded program to grow up in, and so yeah, very close to those guys today, and that's kind of what makes it really special being back home.
So 2021, 16-0 in a state championship for Stephenville. You're back there at your alma mater in your hometown, able to do something special there. And 2022 doesn't mean that you're going to sustain success. In fact, it's probably going to be a little bit tougher now. You got that target on your back. But before we got going, you pointed out that you strongly believe that the championships are won from January to August. And that's how you guys approach it, that the off season is just critical to everything that you do.
Yes, sir, definitely, and we want to just be able to control what we can control, and whatever phase of our journey we're in, we want to live in it, and we want to be the very best at it. So whether that be in January where we stay in the weight room a lot, you get down into March where we're doing, weights and some conditioning, and then all the way into to spring football in May, and then come into the summer workouts. Whatever phase we're in, we want to just focus on being 1-0 and win the day. That just kind of have that mentality and just take it one step at a time and enjoy the journey as a family. And you said it, 2021 was a special year for us, and the guys have come back and we've had a really good off season, and they're hungry for some more. No doubt about it. It's going to be, in the district that the UIL put us in. You got China Spring there at number 2 in the state preseason. Defending state champions for 4A Division II. They move up and come into our division, and then you got the traditional power Waco La Vega in district as well, and then the region is really tough. So we've got a gauntlet. There's no doubt. The same thing that we had last year. So we'll just take it one bite at a time and just keep chopping away at it.
And I was able to watch some highlights from last season's games, especially towards the end in the state championship. And you have a talented team, but man, are you playing some talent against you as well. And I imagine the thing that's the equalizer for you, the thing that maybe with some of those teams, maybe they do have more talent, is that you guys work at it. And it's a year-round thing, and that's just ingrained in the culture of what you do.
Yes, sir. It's we got to have, number one, you got to play with championship effort. If you don't have that effort, then you're not going to be successful. And then we focus on championship execution. So, got a great staff, got a group of guys that really coach them hard, love them harder, and build relationships with them. We want to know more than just if this guy can zone block or defend the pass in our cover 2 scheme. We want to know about their home life and what's going on, and just really build that relationship with them, and just create a real close-knit group that's buying into one common thing, and that's to go be successful on the field and be successful off the field.
I know with the great programs, everybody talks about some of these things, as an example, championship effort, championship execution. But can you define those for us? What does that look like to you when you're looking at your players or even your coaching staff? To you, what are the things that, as you look at it, and as the head coach, you could say, all right, this is championship effort. The things that are more tangible and that you can point to.
So we have 4 cornerstones of our program. We gave them an acronym so that we could all remember it, but it's play for them boys. So, it's passion, fundamentals, discipline, and belief. And I say it all the time. I said, if somebody comes out, and Keith, if you came by and watched our practice, what would you see? Would you see us playing with passion? Would you see us enjoying the process? Man, football's a tough, monotonous, do the same things over and over again. I mean, you got to think about those ABCs and those drills that you do, and just the monotony of that. Sure. When you're sitting there playing for 16 weeks. So are we having fun? Do you see passion? Are we fundamentally sound in terms of the schemes and what we're doing, and can our kids buy into those? And then discipline. Do you have the discipline to do what you're taught to do in every moment, whether that be first rep of fall camp all the way to the last rep in the state championship, playing for a district championship, whatever that looks like. Do you have the discipline to do what you're supposed to do? And then belief. There's going to be times when adversity hits, and you believe in our process and what we did all offseason to get ourselves prepared for that. And you see those moments throughout your journey when it kind of, that adversity hits, and what do you do? Do you cower away from it, or do you run towards it? And so that's kind of how we define our cornerstones of what we really want to focus on and be about.
When you look at the execution side too, in today's game, certainly we're all out at the same clinics. We learn a lot of the same stuff. What you do on offense might be in some games the exact same thing that the other team's doing, or defense, vice versa. But it does come down to execution, and for me, sitting back and watching some high school games in Ohio, you see the teams that, man, these guys are running the same team. They've got similar types of athletes, but this team is so much better at it. There is something to, and really understanding what that word execution means. We can all say it, but again, the best teachers know exactly what are the steps to get that execution. What's that for you?
I think, again, it just goes back to the details and your guys, just you, number one, as a coach, being a great teacher so they can understand what you expect out of them. And then to have the young men and the kids that want to focus on that, and it's important to them, and they want to think about it outside of the school day, outside of practice. There's got to be investment on both sides in order to do something special. You say a team with no leadership is going to be a bad team. A team with coaches' leadership is going to be a good, solid team. Second round of the playoffs, second or third in district, whatever that looks like. But if you got leadership on both sides, you got a chance to be really successful. So I think that comes down to both sides taking investment in that and believing in it and working for it every day.
That's a very dynamic part of it, that leadership, especially the player-led leadership, because every team is different. You have that turnover of the senior class is gone, and then there's another group of younger guys coming up, and it's not always easy to get that player-led leadership out of them. I do think it takes some very intentional coaching, and I think there's an art to it too. So for you, what are the things that are really key to helping you move those guys along, to being able to, from a leadership perspective, take over that team?
I'm going to keep going back to it, but I think you got to develop that in the off season, and that's got to be something that they've got to be empowered to be able to lead. You mentioned it last year. We had some great leadership. We had a great captain group, and we had a great core of guys, and we challenged everybody. Everybody's got a chance to be a leader. You got the opportunity to go into a situation and to make it better. Our motto last year was leaders lead. It sounds simple. It sounds, like it doesn't need to be said, but if you're on our team, you've got the ability to lead us. So just do it. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and put a stamp on something. You see something that's not right, go make it right. And that's all for us developed, in that off season. Whether we are, splitting our team up in competition groups, and coaches pick leaders and for guys to to lead their way through whatever we're challenging them with that day. It comes from having meetings and talking as a coaching staff with the leaders of our team to be able to try to get that lead by example and that vocal leadership. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have some guys that may be a little bit quieter, but they work their tails off, and they're an elite player, and people want to be like them. And they follow that. And then you've got guys that can do both, that are vocal and challenge guys. And we really just try to empower our guys that, hey, if I'm on the kickoff team and the kickoff return team, I've got just as much importance as that star receiver. That everybody's got that opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I love the competition teams in the off season. I can't remember the year we started it, somewhere in the mid 2000s, about when you were graduating from college. And I remember there being at AFCA an article, I don't know if there's a summer manual or what it was, but Jerry Kill at Southern Illinois at the time was doing it and explained it. And then later on, Daryl Hazel's version of it a few years later was in American Football Monthly. But I think that's there's some incredible things in there when you can, number one, put those teams together, that they learn to work within a different dynamic of guys all the time and get to lead in smaller situations, right? Because it's not, when you think about that player-led team, it's difficult when you're trying the whole group. You got 100 guys or whatever it is. All right, guys, step up. It's hard. There's too many voices, a lot of noise. But now when you can start that off season in smaller groups, and then add the competition, like you said, I think that's where you start to see that develop and special things happen.
That's right, because they're going to have a variety of different skill sets on their team, and they got to try to bring the best out of them. And that's what we do as coaches, and that's what players got to do within their groups.
What are some of your favorite things on the competition side that you're doing in the off season that certainly are bringing that competitiveness to it, but are also to the kids a lot of fun?
We try to come up with different obstacle courses, and we always end it with a tug-of-war challenge. So we'll hang from the monkey bars every 10 seconds. A whistle blows, they got to do a pull-up. And you get a pull-up, and get 5 points. If you just hang and you stay for past a minute, then you get a certain amount of points. So it's designed for different skill sets. We'll do bench press, we'll do dumbbell fireman carries, sled pulls, tire flips, get out the big tractor tire and have them flip, see how many times they can flip it, within a 3 or 4 second or minute time period. It's
fun as coaches too, because you can put the highlight on a certain part of your team, right? Like the big guys, all right? This is going to be their day to shine. This is going to be their day to lead and win for their team and compete for their team. And I think in looking at that and how you can control it and really start to see how things are developing, that's, to me, was always a lot of fun in the off season, to sit down and have those meetings and talk about what we saw that particular week as coaches, and then where do we want to go this next week, and who needs to step up for us, those kinds of things.
Yeah, for sure. I won't be doing anything else, Lord willing, just having the ability to coach and impact kids and for the better.
Now, do you guys draft those teams?
Mm-hmm.
The
yes,
kids
sir.
draft them?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
I always said,
sure
sit in that room. Don't let them do it on their own, because there's a lot to learn about where your team's at right at that time with how they're looking at drafting certain guys and who they value. And I mean, there's always some surprises too. Like, you think, this kid who athletically is a stud, and for some reason he's not, early in the pick, and you start wondering why. You start looking at those things, and then it's that opportunity, because you might know that kid athletically is important to the team. Well, shoot, this is how his teammates view him. We need to help this situation.
Yes, for sure. Definitely stay in there and just see the mental how they just kind of work their way through, the list, the NFL draft, if you will.
Yes.
And what they see as value, right?
Right.
And then, well, how does that actually translate to the day of competition? Because oh man, I didn't do a good job, or hey, we were right on where we needed to be. I got a mix of power and speed. Whatever that looks like.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as we head now into the final stretch, and you said it's 1 January through August, so we're coming up on August here in a new phase. Getting into camp and fall camp, and I know everybody, around the country in some way or another is working all year long and able to get the football out at different points and install. But August takes on a new meaning, right? Because right around the corner and everything you're preparing for, that ball's kicking off soon, and you're getting into the season, and which is what this was all about anyway, starting in January.
That's right. Yeah, and everybody's excited. Everybody's at this time of year. Everybody's, hadn't lost a game yet, and you got a ton of momentum, and everybody's fired up to come out and go to work. We're gonna have to be able to work through some elements and things that we can't control and things that we can't control in terms of the the kind of heat wave that's going on through here, and be smart as coaches in what we're doing and times that we're working out, and make sure that we're maximizing all those things. But that's on the administrative side. But then just get out there and get going with our guys. It's going to be a blast.
For you, in looking at how you're going to progress through camp, I mean, it is a phase, but you certainly can see within there's phases too, right? As you start, I'm sure like a lot of coaches, back to square one and teaching things again, getting good at things, and then heading into that week one and preparing it. So as you look at how this next month or so is going to unfold for you, how do you progress through it, and what are the things you want to see along the way as a coach?
Yes, sir. It's your really first opportunity for us, being in 4A, to have, you got your acclimation period with your helmets and then your shoulder pads, and then after our 5th day, we can put on full back pads and have your first full contact day there on that first Saturday. So you'll be able to see the progression. Maybe personnel-wise, you thought a kid was going to be able to do something for you, and then he's not quite there, needs a little bit more work. And so this depth charts and movement, and you all kind of have an idea of what that's going to look like. Who your starting will linebacker is going to be, who your left guard is, but nothing's really set in stone. So just kind of always like to see that process and it work itself out. In terms of installs, we'll just kind of really see our progression and where we're at coming out of summer workouts, and see the growth that we've had, and just kind of have a diagnostic check, if you will, to see kind of exactly where we are in terms of execution on some things, and things we need to go back on and teach, and those types of things.
When you look at the way you set up your install, at what point do you guys really start putting that learning into the context of the game and situations, and making sure that they understand the expectations and the different situations they're going to face over the course of the game, whether that be focus on third down or red zone or goal line, whatever that might be?
Yes, sir. I'd say really fast. I mean, we try to do any type of our, live, if you will, situations where we're competing a scale, for example, a 7-on-7 or a team period. We like to get into pretty quick those third down situations. Every day during our scale, we'll work at red zone period, where we're working the ball 20 and in, and so we jump right into those situation football really quick into our fall camp.
Yeah, I think it's critical. And just thinking, you could go around to some schools. It's harder now. Everybody's got turf, but when they didn't have turf, you go to the practice field, and you could by looking at the practice field, tell if that was a team that valued situational football or not. Because if they didn't, then somewhere around the 35 or 40, you just saw the field worn out right there. Yeah. So I agree. I think it's so important to find ways to do that every single day. The game's played in context, right? We don't play it without down and distance. We don't play it without time. So why not practice that way?
Yes, that's exactly right. I can't remember who said it, but I think, like you said, if it's beat up between 20 and 20, then you're not focusing on the whole part of the game. Right. And if you're always putting the ball in a certain order of the hashes, that's not realistic either. You got to spot it where it ends and just try to make if you just put the ball in the middle of the field, how many times do you really ever get the ball dead center? And if you go 100 reps between everything that you're doing that day with the ball in the middle, then that's not realistic and good situational football. So we try to do all those things, move the ball around.
So, Coach, let's dive a little bit into a group which I'm sure you're very fond of, having been an offensive lineman yourself. Played a lot of games for the Houston Cougars at center. And looking at that group and bringing them together, right? You got that little team within the team, right? There's certainly the team culture, but linemen, I don't know why, it's just always different. And coaching high school ball for me and coaching college ball, those guys just kind of had their own way about things, and you wanted to see that was a tight unit. If you saw an offensive line group where all 5 of those guys plus all their buddies who back them up weren't hanging out together, you might have to worry a little bit, because those guys, more than anybody, they got to work together. So for you, in helping them along the way and helping to bond that unit, tighten that unit, I know you spoke here at coaching school on the offensive line. What things do you do? Obviously, haven't been a guy who's done that his whole life. Yeah,
offensive line is just, you talk to anybody, you said it. If you're going to play good offensive football, then you got to be strong up front, because they start it all. And, quarterbacks and backs can really value that for sure. We call our group is the wall, and that's what we've branded it. And they take pride in being able to break it out with the wall. And, eat mustaches during fall camp, get our Cameron. He just won the British Open. Different things like that, and just anytime team meal or something like that, have the big uglies go first, just to find value in what they're doing. Something else that we do, so during special teams, a lot of times, if you're not on that special team, you're going to be, standing there watching, hanging out during that 15-minute period. So you may go 15 minutes where you're just stretching, water, whatever, getting yourself ready for the rest of the practice with O-line, and they're down there working whole time, and then during individual. So Monday and Tuesday we get after it, but then on Wednesday we have a little bit of fun, and we take our helmets off, and we play a little game of one-on-one, and we pick 2 captains. They pick a squad of 3, and then the coaches are quarterbacks. So the 2 O-line coaches, and they compete every week and have a little journey that they go on for a district championship and state championship between the 2 coaches. And so it gets competitive, and they have fun, and they just have the ability to kind of be a kid and kind of be a skill kid for a little bit. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we do.
Yeah, that definitely makes it fun for those guys. Those special teams periods, invaluable time. I mean, I think any position who's not involved needs to be working. I coached quarterbacks forever. That was time for us to get things in. It wasn't necessarily always a heavy physical period, but it was a productive period. So for the O-line, what do your guys, your coaches usually take them through? How do they approach that period? Is it another scripted kind of individual, or are they letting the players maybe have some input into what's happening that particular day? What's the approach?
Yeah, for us, it's a scripted individual period, and again, you go back to the monotony of doing the same thing. We're gonna do ropes, we're gonna do kick and power, we're gonna do boards. So we got a kind of a set system that we go through, and our quarterbacks are doing the same, and our defensive line, if they're not on that unit, a lot of times maybe you have on the punt return group, you'll have a couple guys if you have the ability to personnel that are on it, but otherwise they're over there working as well, valuing that 20 minutes of work.
Yeah, it's a great time to take advantage, but I think most offensive line coaches will tell you they don't have enough individual, right?
Amen. Amen. That's
my
right.
offensive line coach was always stubborn in meetings, and what do we got? For these 5 periods of individual today, what do you got going? He's like, I need 10.
Yes.
You got to go to the head coach and say, can we get one more period in here?
That's right. That's
you
right.
kind of want to make sure, like, if they are asking for more, I do think it's important to pay attention to that too, because that group needs to develop. Certainly, you want your coaches to be efficient. But for me, it was always a red flag. Like, if he's asking for more, I might not be able to get him a ton more, but there's a reason for it as well. In looking at that, that group being so important, especially early on, if there's some struggles, if you need to get them on track, what types of things have you done to really, especially a younger group, settle that group down and get them performing the way that you want them to?
Yeah, I think it just all goes back to their development in the off season and their strength and their flexibility, and that's how you're able to win the line of scrimmage. That comes from your work in the off season, and then it goes, are you fundamentally sound? Are you teaching them? Are you giving them tools to be successful? And so when you have a group that maybe be struggling with something, as we all have, right? You lose guys, graduation, injuries. You got to plug somebody in here or there. You have the guys around them and the coach to help them along, whether that be extra Indy or just more time to be able to. Are you fully understanding what we're asking you to do? And it may be as simple as, no, coach, I don't understand it. I don't get it. So maybe we have to change the way that we're teaching it. So I think just work in the weight room, and just it takes time. The kids don't grow up learning how to bend and get down in a stance and keep a base and come off the ball. Taking small steps and keeping their arches in the ground. I mean, I never drive by a house and see a kid out there kick sliding. You just don't. You see them throwing the football around and being a kid. So it's something that definitely is developed.
Well, Coach, you've had some incredible influences. We've mentioned you do some great things throughout your career, and again, coming back to Stephenville, winning a championship. But you look at all the things you do as a coach, on or off the field. What's one thing you say that, as a coach, this is what I do that really gives my guys the winning edge? I think just the daily approach that our coaches take. If we don't have energy and enthusiasm, I once heard a great program here in Texas. They had one sign up in the locker room, and it said the greatest loss in life is enthusiasm. That really puts a big perspective on it. So if we can attack every day and go have fun and work hard, then you stack days on days, and I think the results speak for themselves. Well, I'm sure we'll have some coaches who want to connect with you in this next off season. So what's the best way to follow you?
Yeah, just think on Twitter. Just look me up, Coach Doty _SHS, and man, we're open. And I love talking ball and hanging out and growing this game. Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time out to sit down and talk ball with us here at coaching school, and best of luck to you and the Yellow Jackets in 2022. All right, Keith, appreciate you having me on.